All right. First of all, hi everyone. I have a very special guest today. It's Jack Ottman, is a CEO of Minds. Minds is a well-known as a decentralized social media platform focused on privacy, free speech, and community-driven engagement. But today we'll be talking about something even more powerful. Minds private social media service, which allows businesses and organizations to build their own social network with full control over content, moderation, and engagement. Jack, great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Oleg.
Of course, for those who might not be familiar, can you give a quick refresher on Minds, its mission, and how the decision was made to offer a private social media services for businesses and organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. We founded Minds all the way back in 2011, which can't believe it's been that long. But the original mission, we saw firsthand some of the issues with Facebook. We started building groups up on Facebook initially. If you recall, all the way back then, they started making changes to their algorithms, and then all of a sudden, we went from reaching these groups with hundreds of thousands of people, and overnight they cut our reach, and we were only able to reach about 5% of them. So we quickly realized back then that there was a big need for social media services that were a lot more respective of the creators that are growing their audiences there, and making sure that those people are maintaining the ability to reach their fans and their followers. So that was when we decided to launch our own social network back then, which was minds.com. And after a few years, we were running our own social network, kind of trying to build a competitor Facebook. We actually realized even further how to shift the product to better fit our mission, which is getting into the private social network. So a couple of years ago, we launched a new product called Minds Networks, which is essentially just a white labeled version of the software we had built and we're using for ourselves. So it enables any brand, any creator, any community to quickly launch their own white label social network. It can be private or public. And yeah, it sort of just better fit our mission of putting the user in control of their social, because now rather than telling them they have to go sign up for our thing and deal with our policies, our rules, we flip that around. So now the creator really gets to set the policies. It's their brand. It's all their community. There's not all the noise of all the other social. It's kind of just strictly about you and your community and what matters to those people. So we're pretty excited about it. And yeah, we think it's actually even doing a better job of fitting our mission than before.
So that's exactly actually how I got into the Minds. So I'm just gonna give a very quick story. At first, we saw the bad actors being canceled, and but it's been a couple of years now. So now we've seen entire industries, comedians, doctors, and even politicians being deplatformed simply for expressing their alternative views. So some entire countries have been cut off from the monetization, right? And then for me, that was my wake-up call. And I started to look for the basically kind of like insurance policy. I looked into running my own social media instance. The reality is it requires constant maintenance, cybersecurity, oversight, and technical expertise, right? That most businesses simply do not have the resources. I was on your Minds network and I received an email that you are opening private networks. And I basically jumped on it from the day one. And because I can build my own independent community without relying on big tech changing rules. Another aspect of it is you get to create a distraction-free, ad-free space where you can actually own the community. So Jack, if you don't mind, can you talk about how Minds private social media service is different from Minds as a public platform, and how does it benefit businesses, creators, and even organizations like churches or membership-based groups?
Yeah, so like I was saying before, so we initially launched a public platform just on minds.com, which is basically our version of our social network, which was kind of designed for people who were fed up with Facebook and trying to solve a lot of the same problems. But what we learned is we were going around and we were talking to all these creators and businesses and trying to get them to switch over to Minds. But at the end of the day, we were still sort of making them join some other platform that's not owned by them, that's owned by us. They have to trust us that we're going to not mess with their reach, mess with their posts, any of that stuff. And we do think we're more trustworthy than Facebook, but there's still that need for trusting us that we wanted to try to get rid of. So that was a big reason we shifted to this new system where now, like I said, people can launch their own white labeled version of it. It actually removes that layer of needing to trust, our content moderators, our admins, and it puts the creator in complete control. So now they're able to set the policies of what can be said there. They're able to decide what people can be there, who can't. Basically, they run the entire thing. So in terms of, just like I said before, our mission of putting the user back in control, this new product really gets us even closer to that being a complete reality. So it just made a lot of sense for us, and it's going really well now because, rather than having to convince someone like you to tell everybody to come join Minds and our thing, you're really just empowered to set it up for yourself. And it's really no different than getting people to come sign up for your website at that point. It's just giving you a lot more tools to add to your website so you can have all of the great features we've built over the years, but under your own hood.
Right. So basically, again, taking it a little bit more on the personal level, right? So I've been shadow banned across all major networks with no explanation. So, for instance, my Facebook ad account was suspended without a warning, and trying to get a response from a customer support is basically impossible. So for me, there was another realization that you are not a customer, you are a product, and your attention is being auctioned off to the highest bidder. Where you adapt the philosophy of having your own social media platform, what you're saying is that I get to create what I talk about without restrictions. At this point, we already know that during the pandemic, there was a suppression of certain ideas and you were simply not allowed to talk about. So let's say I'm a church and I say that I don't recommend my members to take the vaccine. If I openly say that on my private channel, on my private social media that is run on Minds, if somebody complains, would you take down my social network?
No, definitely not. That's some of the problems we saw with Facebook early on that started on this journey. Like, we've had the same problems you mentioned where for a while Facebook was even labeling every time somebody posted even just any Minds URL on Facebook, it said a warning sign saying that it was harmful or offensive or something like that, and wouldn't even let them post it. So like, we've seen firsthand that Facebook's got these ever-changing rules that they kind of selectively enforce. And yeah, it's just too big of a risk to put your whole business, your ability to reach your customers or your audience, like, in the hands of a company like that. So yeah, with us, no, we would not take that down. If you really dig into it with the private social networking, we do offer a hosted solution where we are still hosting the content for you in the back end for you. And in that world, we do have to just make sure that there's nothing illegal getting posted, because that's on our servers. And if it's against the law, then there's not much we can do about it. But, that's a very different concept than like somebody opinion that we don't like, about the vaccine or whatever it is. So yeah, with this product, as long as it's legal, and we base our policy there off just the US laws, then yeah, you can say whatever you want. And there's nobody in the middle who's going to be taking it down or interfering with your ability to reach people with that message. You're taking more ownership of that entire system so that there's no one in between to interfere with what you're trying to say to your members or your fans.
Basically, or what you're saying is that as a organization that takes this private social media into its own hands, we can talk about whatever we want, but it also comes with moderation. So at this point, if I set up this group and I decide that this member is, toxic to our community, I have a full right just to remove that user, right? So I have a complete control of the network.
Yeah, you're the admin. Like, I had another customer of ours say that he loved it because he gets to be the Elon Musk of his own social network. So that's what we've created. Like, you get to be Elon. Like, you control the algorithm, you control what can stay, what can go, you control the policies. It's all up to whatever you want and your community wants. And Yeah, we have pretty robust moderation tools that we've built over the years. So any user can get banned or posts can get deleted. You're in control of all of that type of stuff. We just learned over the years that lots of communities just have different ideas on how moderation should run and what the rules should be. So, rather than us trying to be this all-knowing middleman who everybody has to listen to what we want to do, this model just flipped that around. So again, yeah, it's just putting you in charge. So, if your community wants to be able to talk about that stuff, feel free, make the policy about that, and anyone can do that. If your community doesn't want to talk about that stuff and wants to ban anybody who's talking about that stuff, like, you can do that too. So it gives you a very wide range of tools to, set the policy and the moderation guidelines wherever you want and your community wants.
You essentially created the network, and at this point, everybody can benefit without investing millions of dollars into the server farms, into building the infrastructure. This is basically out of the box social media that you can run on your own website. The last time we spoke, I was setting up a private social network. We had to create subdomain through my domain. Is it still
Right.
the case?
Yeah, we can support root domain, but subdomain's a lot quicker and cheaper. So yeah, basically if you own a website, mydomain.com, then within minutes you can add a full featured social network to your website. It'll just have to get hosted on a subdomain. So you do like app.mydomain.com, and then you can just add a simple button to your main website saying join our community or join our social network, whatever you want to market it as.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where people can now click that. They can now create a profile. They can post. They can engage with each other. They can see all of your content in one place. So yeah, it's just like a very easy way to add just a ton of community features to your website, under your brand, under your name.
So at this point, I hope the viewers understand what the private social media is, how to set it up, and if you don't mind, maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about monetization model on Mind's private social media service, and how does it compare to ad-based revenue structures?
Are you talking about the monetization model for our business or for our
For
customers?
people who are actually setting it up. So at this point,
Mhm.
if let's say we're setting this up for churches, right? For example, the membership fees and what tiers are available for churches that are implementing this private social media idea in their structure, in their tech stack.
Most social media in the past was driven by the ad revenue model, so it's free to use for everybody, but they're gonna collect all the data on you and offer that up to advertisers, and that's sort of how they make their money. To be honest, we do have a whole ad system built into the product, so any of our customers can actually allow their community members to pay to promote posts within the network. So if you were a church and you had like a couple thousand people on your community app, maybe somebody's doing some sort of event or some sort of business thing that they want to inform the church members about, they can actually pay the church, $10 for an ad campaign, where now that post is going to get blasted all over the network so that the other church members will definitely see it. But we've also focused a lot on just like a paid membership model. Any customer of ours who launches their own private social network can also set up memberships, where you might set it up so people have to pay a monthly fee to even use it in the first place. You can also make like a hybrid system where free users get some stuff, but if you pay, you get verified and you can post, and you sort of unlock a lot more functionality. So we're kind of a fan of the membership model, because if you're able to create a sustainable social network that's funded by the members, it means that you're reliant on them. So you're only going to listen to them. I think where a lot of the problems with traditional social media came up was they became so reliant on revenue from advertisers that the advertisers really got to start controlling their behavior. So a lot of the censorship and the changes to those policies had to do with advertisers saying, "Hey, I don't want my ad showing up on a post about not taking the vaccine." So Facebook said, we're not going to allow those types of posts because we can't
Mm-hmm.
share an ad on there. So yeah, I think shifting the model of social media to a more membership based model would just benefit everyone, because it just puts the community, the community is the one paying the bills. And whoever pays the bills ultimately gets say as to, what's going to happen there. So we put a big shift onto that. And then, in terms of like how the church would sign up with Minds, we sell this product just on a similar monthly subscription plan. We sort of have different plans that vary based on how many members you have and whether you want mobile apps as well, because we do support this all as a white labeled mobile app as well. So you can have it in both app stores. We have plans for very small teams that are as low as $50 a month. It goes up to $500 a month from there. And then, if you want the mobile apps, it's a couple $1,000s a month. But when you really look at the cost of building all of this stuff for yourself, I think you mentioned it before. It's like a lot of businesses just don't have the resources to even consider building anything like this, or the expertise to do it. And if you wanted to, it would require hiring some very expensive developers and create a bunch of headaches for you in terms of maintenance. And there's a lot of risk that it doesn't turn out the way you want. So, our thinking is we've already spent the last 10 years building and investing most of the money we raised into building this software, rather than making other businesses build that all again from scratch. Where, this white label model really lets us just offer all of that functionality at a much, much, much lower price for customers like yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
then you don't have to worry about the maintenance. You don't have to worry about any of it, really. We're kind of there to fill that gap for you.
Basically, when you open it, it literally looks just like the Facebook. So you can scroll
Mhm.
down, people can post, let's say with the church, right? You can open the public page so everybody can see the public posts. But within your community, let's say you are offering Bible study, let's say $10 a month, and members can have access to those posts when people who do not pay don't have access to it. Let's maybe if you're a financial advisor and you want to give you overview of the market, and then people who are subscribing are getting immediate responses when you are monitoring the market, and you're going to say, okay, there's a bear market, or you're going to sell some stocks.
Yeah, we've built a lot of tools around that so that the customer is able to configure the network however they really want. So, on one hand, you can set it up so that people have to pay to see anything. You can also set it up, like you mentioned, where you can sign up for free and you can get some stuff, but you have to pay to then get the exclusive access to the really good content, whether it's the Bible study or the stock picks, or, whatever it is that people are holding back from the free users to try to incentivize them to pay. So we have paywall systems, exclusive group systems. So you can kind of configure that however you want. And we've seen lots of different ways that people do it. I'd say the easiest use case we've seen is making it for members only. Once you bring in the free users, it just brings up a little bit more headache in terms of spam. You're kind of having to have these different little marketing campaigns to upsell people. And, that's definitely doable, and we support all of that. But I think the customers of ours that have had the most success so far, it's like a members only. If you're a member, you get this app, and it's just like a very clear value add why you should buy something on the website, because now you get access to this whole private community app that kind of cuts out all the noise and just has pure value there. But you can set it up either way.
Okay, cool. And then, so we already touched base a little bit on the pricing. So there's a $50 plan, there's a $500 plan. What's the difference? What are the things that are included in the $50, and what is included in the 500?
Not a ton of differences to them. They're more so based on just how large of a community you have, and how many like events are happening, because that's where our costs come in. So for the $50 plan, you get the website on your subdomain with pretty much everything that we have to offer. The only thing you don't get is you can only set up one membership tier, whereas at the $500 plan, you can set up as many membership tiers as you want. But again, it's sort of based on the size of your community. So for the $50 tier, if you just have kind of under 50 people, and it's like a very small, tight-knit community with not a whole lot of activity, then that probably makes sense for you. If you're trying to grow it larger than that, like into the hundreds or thousands of members, that's where the community plan at $500 a month makes most sense. If you have like over 10,000 members, then we have an enterprise plan where at that point we're kind of giving you everything at the cost that we pay, and that's $1,000 a month. And then on top of that, what I mentioned is just the mobile app package. If you want to have mobile apps, which is all of the same functionality, but on a white label mobile app, which is in the app stores, that's just an extra $1,000 a month on top of the plan that you have. And it has a setup fee as well. So that's a quick overview of the pricing, but it might seem like a lot, but to have a mobile app and web app with basically the functionality of Facebook or Twitter for just $1,000 a month roughly is miles cheaper than it would ever be to try to build it yourself or hire someone.
So essentially, you are offering this entire software package and you're basing your price on how much it costs you to run it on the servers. So that's another, I think, important factor to explain to viewers is that, for instance, once you start having more members, they're gonna start posting videos. And essentially, that takes the resources on the server, and essentially that's how you tie that pricing.
So yeah, we're hosting. This is all on our hosted plan, so that we're just basing our pricing on the cost to us. Things like video, things like images, all of the stuff that your community members are doing has a cost on our servers. So that's how we base the pricing off of. And we do build a lot of controls so that you can limit what your community members are able to do. Video is one of the more expensive things. So like we have a tool where you can disable video for certain types of users if you don't want to have that risk of your bill going up. We don't try to surprise customers with any kind of hidden costs or anything like that. Even if you did go over the quotas, like we don't just surprise you with a bigger bill. Like we'd reach out and try to find ways to make it match what you're able to afford. There is also a self-hosted option. That's the most expensive though, because you're sort of having to set up the whole back-end servers yourself and you're having to maintain them yourself. But then you can run our software yourself. So then you're quite literally not dealing with us at all. I mean, we can help from a support standpoint to help you get set up with that, but that's actually kind of the maximum ownership route that someone can go, where you really host it on your own servers and you're in total control of everything. But that also means you have to pay the bill and you have to maintain it all. So that's where we're kind of expert in. So it's a lot easier for most people to just use us for that bit, but it's all open source. So you can host it yourself and run it yourself if you really want it.
We have a meeting only for 30 minutes, so if I can squeeze a little bit more of your time, if you can just tell me about the updates that happened in the past 6 months, if there's any updates that are coming up.
In the last 6 months, we've definitely been adding a lot of stuff. I think the most exciting things we've added was we added a full audio player. So now the social network supports audio uploads. So podcasts, any kind of music, any kind of MP3, any kind of audio file you can upload, and then your users on the network can listen to it in a similar way that they would on like Spotify or Apple Music or any of these types of apps. So that was pretty big for us to just be able to support content creators who like to work with audio files. The other big thing we're working on, which is really exciting, is in the AI space, which I think you're interested in as well. We're building a way so that within your private social network, you can actually also launch your own AI-powered assistant channel, which you can train on any of the data that you want it to be expert in. And then basically your social network will have an AI that can answer all of your questions from community members based on whatever it is that your community is like interested in. So for an example, if you're a podcaster and you launch one of these social networks for your fans, you could train an AI on every podcast episode you've ever done. So now there's a presence on the social network, like a chatbot that you can chat with, or you can tag it in comments, it'll reply. It's essentially just an expert in everything about your specific community. So we're pretty excited about that, because it basically lets us, it opens just a whole new door where the product's not even just about having a social network. Now you can also have chat experience with an AI that's sort of expert in your community. So that's another thing we're pretty excited about that we're rolling out soon.
Wow.
Other than that,
Do you have any
Yeah.
time frame on that? Do I get the sneak peek of that at all, or what plans do I need to be on to have this feature?
Yeah, we're still working out the details on how we're going to offer it out because we don't have the self-serve training built yet, so like we have to help customers do it ourselves. But yeah, we can definitely work with you and show you how it works. It's just like launching another channel on your social network. So you launch a channel, but you just define it as an AI bot, and then we have a way where we can give it a knowledge base. So you can give it like a Google Drive folder or a Dropbox folder that's full of all the kind of files and content that you want it to be trained on. Just similar to how Twitter uses like Grok all across Twitter. Like you have this like chatbot that you can talk to that's just like trained on whatever it is you want. We're pretty excited about that because it just unlocks like one of the big challenges with social network is just engagement and having users who are posting and active on the network feeling like there's people to talk to and stuff to respond to. And having this AI assistant really helps the customers of ours just have a constant channel that's always responding to people, that's always giving accurate information about, whatever it is that you want it to be expert on. That's something we're pretty excited about. And yeah, there's even a world where we could strip it down because some customers don't even want all the social stuff, but they might just want this AI thing. So even having just that, where it's like you can now launch an app for your community that's essentially just like a chat with an AI that's trained on whatever it is you want to train it on. Even that in itself is pretty interesting, and then all the social network stuff is kind of like behind it, so you can kind of pick and choose what of those features you want to offer your community and what you wouldn't. So that's something that we're pretty excited about that we're working on.
Wow, I mean, listen, I was excited for this meeting for the past 3 weeks. So that information, it raised my excitement is even further. So essentially, so I do have a customer, he's a lawyer, and he was asking us to set up a instance and essentially have customers communicate, ask the questions before he takes over, right? So in my case, we had to set up the AWS, we had to set up the instance, then we had to upload the llama, and then we had to train it. So essentially what you're telling me, and again, it's like for those who do not know those things, this can cost you $20,000 easy just in setup costs, and it costs in the upper $10,000-$20,000 per month to run it. You have to use specific instances that can handle this volume. So you are telling me that you are offering service that essentially can bypass it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of those are a lot of the heavy lifts that we're trying to do for everybody, so that you don't like similar with the social network, but it's just applying it to AI, where it's like people don't want to have to set up AWS and figure out how to do all that part of it. We've already done all of that, where we have this infrastructure where we can let any brand launch a white label app, that has all the back end set up. It has everything you need to be able to interact with either other people in your community or an AI. We've already built all of that infrastructure. So yeah, now that we have this like AI powered channel concept, I mean, for your instance, yeah, you'd be able to set up one of these networks for your client, train the AI on whatever, legal stuff that the lawyer would want to train it on. And then when people would first land there, yeah, they would be able to chat with this thing and get most of the information that they need. And once it gets to that next level, then maybe that's when they schedule the call with the lawyer and pay for him. So yeah, I think
Wow.
what we've done is we've created this like infrastructure to like deploy white labeled apps for brands like very fast. And traditionally we were focused on the social network, and we still are. But with this AI dimension, it does bring up just a lot more use cases where maybe somebody doesn't want to have a whole social network, but maybe they want to just have like a subdomain called like ai.mydomain.com, and you go there and it's just a chat with like a AI that's trained on whatever it is you want to train it on. So it's just kind of a cool way to have your own white label, chat GPT type thing.
Wow, that's insane. That's insane. You blown my mind with that one. So any time frame when it's going to become available?
It's pretty much working right now if we work manually with the customer. So if you have a use case that that you think makes sense, like we can work with you directly. In terms of having everything self-serve where a customer can buy this and just set it up themselves, like I would say maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, like we
Wow.
should have that. But right now we're still kind of validating that this is something people want. If you have customers who would want to do that, then reach out and we'd love to get it set up. And then that just helps us justify building the self-serve tools to set it up yourself and train it yourself and all that stuff.
First of all, congratulations on developing the AI and implementing it in the channel. That's a huge achievement. So at this point, I'm sure a lot of viewers and listeners are now wondering, how do they get started?
Yeah, if you want to get started, the easiest way is to just go to networks.minds.com. And from there, you can set up a call with us to book a demo. You can start a free trial, or you can just buy one and play around with it. There's definitely a good amount of onboarding involved in terms of navigating it all and figuring out the admin panel and whatnot. So we definitely encourage people who are interested to set up a call with our team, and we'll have somebody get on there and walk you through it and make sure that you see all the different features and get it set up correctly. And that's where we can also talk more about the AI stuff if that's what you're interested in, because like I said, that's not quite baked into the self-serve stuff yet. But yeah, just networks.minds.com, and that's the easiest way to get in touch with us. We'd love to talk with you.
Wow. I mean, listen, has been a very insightful conversation. If you're looking for a way to build a non-distracting, ad-free space for your community, check out Mind's private social media service. I hope we've provided enough information for you to consider owning your own social network as part of your tech stack. Jack, any final thoughts or messages for the audience? Did we miss anything?
No, just we'd love to talk with you. And yeah, thanks a lot for the time, Oleg.